Authors Press.
Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. And on the line with us today, we have Beatrice Fairbanks Cayzer. We'll be discussing her fantastic book, Kidnapped in Jerusalem, available for purchase directly from the publishing company, authorspress.com, or if you guys want to gather everything that Beatrice has to offer, do yourself a favor and head directly to her personal site. That's Cayzer's kidnappedinjerusalem.com. That's C-A-Y-Z-E-R-S, kidnappedinjerusalem.com. There, not only will you find more information on Beatrice herself, you'll find more information on this fantastic book, as well as find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing page. So one more time, that's Cayzer's kidnappedinjerusalem.com. And guys, if you haven't figured it out already, Beatrice was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business, Authors Press Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, make sure you're doing yourself a favor and you're contacting Authors Press. You can find out more information on them at authorspress.com. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Beatrice, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you so much for being a guest. How are you?
I'm well, I'm happy, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to address your audience. Very kind of you to invite me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Beatrice, the pleasure is all ours. Okay, first and foremost, we're always looking for new books to promote because, we love to read here, and, education is so important. But also, as I stated, your book is something that is so profound because, A, the journey is amazing, but also the wisdom that you can receive from the reader's perspective is second to none. So we're very much looking forward to this, and the gift is really for us, and thank you for blessing us with your presence and giving that to us today. Now, Beatrice, I know we have so much information to cover, but before we go into the book, let's hold off slightly. Start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
Well, my father was a United States ambassador to the coronation of Haile Selassie, who was one of the most interesting characters of the 20th century, Ethiopia's last emperor, and a great warrior. He managed to get his country back into a free country after it had been taken over in the Second World War by then fascist Italy. Now, I personally married and left the United States when I was 20 years old and went to live in South America, where my husband's grandfather was the president of the country, and I had a rather wonderful life there. And born 3 children, all girls, and I was very happy there for quite some time, but in South America, their morals are incredible. Oh, you can't be 5 minutes late for Mass, but you can have 2 mistresses on the side. So I really wasn't very happy there, and after a while, I returned to the United States and decided to become a published author, and I wrote 27 books. Now,
wow.
After I had settled back in the United States, yes, I had the great joy of meeting and marrying an Englishman, a sportsman who was master of foxhounds in England and the owner of various racehorses. I had one win at Ascot, at Royal Ascot, and Goodwood. I had a wonderful life with my English husband, but he died. And then I had a very unhappy life when I married, because I'm quite a religious person, a practicing minister of the United Church of Christ. And then I found out in Europe that our marriage wasn't working, and we split up. And I came back to America, continued to work at books, and eventually married Mr. Richards 6 years ago, with whom I'm extremely happy. Now, what else can I tell you except that my joy in life is creating books. I like to think of the storyline, which is always very important to me. Next are the characters. You can always place other characters in a story, but you can't always put those characters in another story. And remember that I said that, because I think it's quite important. Now, in the book we're talking about, Kidnapped in Jerusalem, my main character has been abused as a boy by his various teachers and even his priests. And when he's trying to prove that he's a normal boy and has an affair with a 14-year-old girl, he is caught and sentenced to 20 years in prison. And he would have spent 20 years in prison, but he had grown very wily and clever in prison. And he found out that if he had a little bit of a problem sexually with the chaplain of the prison, he could get out ahead of time. And so he did. He got 3 years remission. And he wanted to recreate himself as a person. So this boy, who was just a sort of Georgia cracker, he didn't come from much, he had one tremendous talent, and that was he was a tremendous swimmer. And all throughout my book, you will find him swimming, saving people's lives, and doing good through swimming. Now, that's unusual. He goes to New York, and he surprisingly meets one of the people he saved, who was drowning as a child, and she helps him to make himself, has his teeth straightened and his posture straightened and his English improved. And all of a sudden, during a Halloween party at St. John's Cathedral, which has been going on for many, many decades, he goes as King Neptune with a tripod. And during the upcoming part of the service, which has not started yet, he goes into the bathroom, men's bathroom, and he sees a man sodomizing a 16-year-old boy. And as he has this Neptune's tripod, he thrusts it into this man's back. And of course, the man's screaming and calling for the police and everything else. And he realizes that he has got to get out of there and fast. He tears up part of his costume. He runs for the nearest subway. He goes down to the docks in New York, manages to get a job as a waiter on a British ship. He didn't even know what country he was going to. But their first stop, Barcelona, he stays in the boat. But the second stop, which is Kusadasi, Turkey, he gets off the ship with other sailors, and they all go off shopping, but he goes swimming. And on the beach, he meets a beautiful young half-Turkish, half-Saudi Arabian heiress. Now, this is a Romeo and Juliet story, and you've already guessed now that my hero, Dennis, is Romeo, and now we have Juliet. And Juliet has a completely different background from him. She comes from a very wealthy and distinguished family from the country of her father. He has been with the United Nations and taken her to New York. She's got a New York accent when she speaks English. It's quite an interesting situation. They get on so well. They kiss in the sea. They swim together for 3 days, and they are interlocked forever. And they decide that he will stow away her on the ship he's working on as a waiter and somehow get her away from an undesirable marriage that's lurking ahead for her, which she doesn't want. And she pleads with him to hide her and take her on his ship, which he does. He has her hidden in a great big bag that he carries around with him, and has her on the ship, and they are caught, more or less. She goes independently with her money and buys a ticket on the boat to go to Alexandria. So anyway, they aren't going to throw her off. And they get married on the boat by the captain of the ship. They get to Alexandria, and right away, she is being pursued by her Saudi Arabian father, who doesn't care whether she's being married under some ridiculous maritime law in a Christian country. All he wants is his wife, his rebellious daughter, back in Saudi Arabia as a good Muslim daughter. All right. He has her pursued in one country after another. As soon as she finds out that a woman has recognized her where they are in Alexandria, they got to go to to Cairo. They recognize in Cairo, they got to go to Jerusalem. Now, in Jerusalem, she feels rather secure, and she asks her mother to come down from Turkey to see her. Her mother does see her. They have a wonderful, happy reunion for one day. But that very clever father has had her followed, and as the mother's taxi pulls away, she is grabbed by his thugs and taken to Saudi Arabia. Now, it's very difficult for an American adventurer who doesn't have a lot of money. So he does have some from having survived that one girl he saved on a beach in Florida. The parents had given him $10,000, and he has that in a bank account in New York. So he is able to more or less support a wife, and he is not going to let his wife be taken away from him. He loves this woman. She is the pearl of all existence, and just like Juliet, he'll do anything for her. He'll pretend he's dead, he'll do anything. All right. She is in Saudi Arabia, and her father has stuck her in a house in the middle of a desert where the naughty women in his family have always been sent to punish them and teach them to behave. Now, she is pregnant and very much wants to have her lover, husband's baby. She is thrilled that she's pregnant with this child. But amongst the various things that her father has threatened her with is if she is pregnant, she will have an abortion, whether she likes it or not. Well, of course, she's not going to tell her father or any of his aides that she's pregnant, and she manages to hide the pregnancy by cutting the insides of her fingers and having a monthly cloth bloodied for 3 or 4 days, and she gets away with it. Now, the camel races are very important near where she's being held. And everybody wants to go to these camel races, just like if you lived in Kentucky, you'd want to go to the Derby. So all the people who are overlooking her captivity in this horrible little house that doesn't even have a toilet, they go off to the camel races, and they think she's locked up in the room. She is pretty safely captured there, but she isn't. Because an American GI who is in a jeep that runs out of water on the desert comes to the house and asks for some water. She, of course, screams, help, help, and he lets her out. But he wants to go to bed with her. He doesn't just want to give her freedom. But he has to drive her away from there because otherwise she's going to be retaken by all her father's horrible thugs. And they drive to an oasis. Now, this man is very determined to have her, and he waits for her as she pretends she has to go to the bathroom, and then she wants to buy a dress, blah, blah, blah. Fortunately, because meanwhile, Dennis, her husband, has got through to Saudi Arabia by pretending to be a camel's groom. That sounds ridiculous, but it's happened. And he did. And the camel, of course, won the race. Now, if I've gone too far for you, I will stop the story right there.
No.
You know that they are on their way to London.
I'm going to joke. I absolutely love everything that you're relaying. I mean, this is such a magnificent story with so many twists and turns and hills and valleys. I mean, this is incredible. This is incredible stuff, guys. This is taken directly out of a Hollywood film. Okay, I would be very surprised if I didn't see this on the silver screen very, very shortly. Now, Beatrice, as we close out of this wonderful interview, listen, what's next for you? I mean, you've written 28 titles. Is there a 29th on the horizon?
I was very interested to think of something the other day. I don't know whether I'll develop it into a book or just a story, but we had a very interesting woman here in Palm Beach who built the house that Mr. Trump, ex-president, is living in right today, called Mar-a-Lago. And she designed it with the help of an architect, and she had it built, and it's very beautiful. I've been there many times with her, because I knew this lady very well. I knew Meriwether Post, and she used to have me there as a sort of a buffer, so her servants weren't thinking she was having an affair, but she was, with a man called Colonel Wilson. And Wilson was a lovely man, but her daughters wanted to inherit her wealth, and didn't want to share it. According to Florida law, 50% would go to a new husband. And so they were not happy about Colonel Wilson. And he wasn't after her money. I knew him well. He was in love with her, as any man would have been who knew her. She was beautiful, elegant, interesting, whatever. I didn't know her very well. As I say, I used to be the buffer there at dinner for them. So I saw every aspect of her. She really was quite a great lady. Now, what more can I say to you than to write a book about their love story? Your daughters won't like it, but they'd be about 110 by now, so I don't have to worry about them.
I think they'll be okay. You know, Beatrice, this is so incredible. I mean, listen, this truly is the gift that keeps on giving. Guys, you have to go and pick up every single copy in her 28-book canon, because I promise you, you'll find something in there that is just right for you. You guys know what you have to do. I'm going to say it one more time for you, even though I know I don't have to. AuthorsPress.com, Cayzer's KidnappedInJerusalem.com are the places you have to go. Kidnapped in Jerusalem is the title you have to pick up. And Beatrice Fairbanks Cayzer is the author you have to thank for bringing this fantastic narrative to you. Guys, let's learn, let's grow, let's develop, and it starts with this fantastic narrative. And while you're at it, make sure you're looking at the 27 other titles that she's written as well. You surely will not be disappointed.
Anybody.
Beatrice, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
I'm grateful. Goodbye.